Morning. Looks like we can get to work at once. The union muscle turned up. They look rowdy. We should talk to them. Everything points to the dock workers' union. The belt used for hanging him. The circumstances in Martinez. My preliminary, which may, of course, all be wrong. But we still need to talk to them, and it won't be easy. I mean ungovernable. Martinez isn't exactly enthusiastic about the RCM being here. Men who drink beer for breakfast? There's talk of an armed wing of the union called the Hardy Boys, who are responsible for state policing. I think it's them. I completely forgot. Sorry, I had a rough night's sleep. It's them by the look. One loose thread less to worry about, and one big problem to replace it. That would just escalate tensions. No captain would sign off on it. In fact, even the death of 2 detectives might not warrant an all-out war. So let's keep one more thing before we do. We don't have to talk to them immediately. We can walk right past them, continue with our business.
Yeah, streetwise. Zoom right past. But aren't you curious to know what...
They're in no hurry to leave. They think they own the place. Anyway, I leave that choice to you.
A thin man is smoking below an exhaust hood, occasionally sipping from his... As you step in, he nods toward the table and says something in a completely foreign language. Okay, it's definitely not his name. Whatever you do, please don't call him Garancy Quebec. The man puts his cup down and replies something, his left hand drawing arcs in the air.
Speak Revacholian? We speak Suren. There is no such thing as the Revacholian language.
The cook is still smoking, ash falling from between his fingers.
Good thing he didn't understand a word of your stupidity.
He looks up at you, then looks away quickly. Shrugging is an international sign for, no, I don't know what's behind that door. The mention of mañana gets his attention. He smiles and delivers a whole slew of unfamiliar words and lively gestures. Then he falls, he smiles, and bangs his ladle. It's almost like music, especially with the sounds of assorted dishes boiling and simmering on the stove. The man says a couple of sentences in that strange... I'm pretty sure he asked you... He doesn't know your language. You can just say something cool in return. Just one word. Sounds quizzical. Then he awaits your answer with his brow arched.
Borscht need more vodka?
Okay, so it's vodka that keeps the men happy and in good spirit.
Of course, vodka. Now that makes a very, very special borscht. In turning it up seems like a dangerous idea. Honestly, the place is a powder keg. He smiles, nodding vigorously, then pours half a bottle of vodka into the pot. With a whistle, he stirs the brew. He smiles and nods enthusiastically, and, chattering away in his language, ladles some brew into a small thermal cup, then hands it to you.
Just a moment.
She's agitated, judging from the way she keeps pulling at the frayed edge.
And there's no public phones nearby?
The closest phone booth is down the coast. Sorry for the inconvenience.
It's fine, I understand. Thank you anyway. I'm glad to see you again, dear. Please don't trouble yourself about me, sweetie. I was just... The union office probably has a phone, but I can't really get there. Or to the phone booth down the coast. And Gary's phone is dead too. The manager was vague about it.
Why would he be vague about phone problems? This is something to look into later.
To let the young woman who's house-sitting for us know that we may be delayed. Morel, my husband, and our friend Gary were supposed to get back by Monday night. But I was also hoping she'd heard from Morel.
A little missing persons puzzle might just be the thing to take your mind off the hangover.
That's just it. This isn't like him at all. He always plans his expeditions so carefully. But you have more important things to worry about.
More important than a missing expedition? I don't know. Expeditions often lead to something interesting.
Just some field work, sweetie. Morel is a highly trained scientist. He and his assistant Gary are studying an extremely rare species of but they should have returned by now. They were just going down the coast across the water lock to set a few traps.
The water lock, that was broken. Could this be it?
Oh my. What happened to the water lock? Well, whatever the cause, I'm thankful. To both of you. You've spared me another sleepless night.
You're welcome, ma'am.
I hate to ask, but if your investigation takes you to the other side of the coast, please do keep an eye out for...
Yes, some left-field scientific research is exactly what you need right now. Funk up.
And if you see him, let him know Lena is waiting for him here at the Whirling. He gets so tangled up in his work that he may not know the water lock's been repaired. And it's cold out there. Oh, you're such a dear. Thank you, sweetie. Oh, yes. A zoo.
It's a pseudoscience that attempts to legitimize research into mythological beasts and...
That's one opinion, yes. And people are...
She's used to playing off such insults casually, but they still...
My apologies, ma'am.
It's not a hobby, dear. It's a subfield of zoology. One specializing in animal species. Searching for such species called cryptids is difficult and often thankless. And frankly, many scientists are too lazy to do it.
The quality of research at Revacholian universities has been on the decline. But you doubt there was ever a time when cryptozoology was embraced by the academic elite.
Oh dear, I'm not sure where to begin. Well, his expression is slightly grumpy, but his eyes are always bright and curious, like a small boy's.
You can't go around Revachol feeling grown men's hands. If you want to find her husband, you'll need more concrete information.
Oh, well, he's a bit shorter than you, but with a larger frame, and he has longish white hair. Usually a bit uncombed.
The lieutenant pulls out his notebook and...
One other thing, he'll likely have all kinds of field gear on him, even if he's not out in the reeds, you know, just in case. We'll be celebrating our 16th anniversary this autumn. Not the most numerically satisfying anniversary, but I like the less obvious. Via dating agency, I'm ashamed to say. I was looking to get back into the scene after recovery. We hit it off, and, well, here we are.
She's skipping over some important parts. Perhaps you'll find out more later.
I hope I've been useful. Oh, sweetie, it's fascinating, but I shouldn't bore you with intimate life.
The lieutenant gives you a sideways glance.
Well, It's a phasmid, technically, but
Ah yes, Phasmatodia, a diverse group of insects whose bodies resemble twigs, leaves, that sort of thing. Ghost insects, colloquially.
where other phasmids imitate sticks or leaves, this one's a living reed. It's disguised, hence its name, the Insulindian phasmid. Perhaps you'll end up co-discovering the phasmid with us, officers.
I knew it. We're gonna be chasing made-up insects with
It's not made up, officer. It's simply elusive, so much so that most establishment zoologists doubt it exists at all. Well, some teenagers making out in the reeds saw one. They didn't know what it was, of course, but there was a brief article in a local newspaper about their encounter with a ghost insect that looks like the reeds. Gary sent us the clipping. Of course, most phasmid sightings turn out to be false alarms, but their description matched the Insulindian phasmid perfectly, and they didn't even know what they were looking at.
Enthusiasm has wiped the worry from her face. Her eyes sparkle behind her.
I suppose I have something of a personal connection to the Insul... Not at all. Why else would it hide itself so carefully? Oh, I doubt it. No one gets into cryptozoology for the money, sweetie. Yes, it can blend in almost perfectly among the reeds. It's how it stayed hidden all these years. Oh dear, I'm afraid I'm not explaining this very well. It is very... Morel can explain it all much better. I wish you could hear him describe it. Then you'd understand, I'm sure. Surely things can't be that bad? You know where we are, right? That's right. And where is the whirling itself located? Yes, indeed. We are in the fine city of Revachol. Yes, and Revachol? Yes. Great, see? We're getting somewhere. What else do you know about our city of splendor, tattered as she may be? The new disco dancing. It seems like a lifetime of much has changed, but it is still the most beautiful city in the world. A rare jewel set in the sand between the pines. Speaking of history, you know what year it is, yes? That's right, dear. How splendid. Here, take this pen. Knowledge should always be rewarded.
Her relief is palpable. She was getting pretty worried about you there.
I can tell that this is taxing for you, so I'll just ask one more question. What regime are we living under? What mode of government? No, sadly not. Revachol is what's called a zone of control under an alliance of foreign powers called the Coalition. We have no...
Meaning, buying is voting.
Oh dear. And you were doing so well. There aren't really any cops in Revachol, not in the traditional, but we should stop for today, sweetie. You look like you need a break. Besides, I'm not...
She's scared now. She's realized you really are brain damaged.
Someone more educated in sweeping matters?
No, I'm not an encyclopedia.
Of course. Then, I don't know, someone rich maybe. But thank you, sweetie. You did make me forget about my worries for a while.
Yes?
Look at you. It's because you're a failure. They sent you to Slight, Precinct 57. Just think about it for a second. You're a raging alcoholic who showed up 3 days late, wearing piss-stained. Of course, it's only a theory. The man before you is naked, but for a pair of underpants and white boots. His skin is marbled with decaying veins.
I'm gone. Into the wild pale yonder. In the past. Way out in the west. I'm a joke. Look at me. A killer. A motherfucker. And a kill. Go ahead. What do you mean? It's the power of your... You mad Go ahead. Ask me more questions. Because you're a copperoonie. Look at all of them go. Here you go, you loony. Fuck no. You're no Rooney. No, you're not a Harry either. You're a motherfucker. That's who you are. Because you have. Do I remind you?
A child born with Muller's disease, harlequinism, grown up.
There you go. Look at that bright kid. We're birds of a feather, you and I.
Feeling nausea, vomiting, tenderness or pain around the liver area, tiny red lines on the skin above waist level, more like days, Coppo. The clock is...
Come back later, Corpo. Amuse yourself with my...
There are several footprints in the mud, left by work boots. Anywhere from 6 to 12 pairs have walked here.
Look at that guy go. I haven't seen anything that... God damn. Thanks for that, but no, it's not my...
He doesn't live in Martinez.
I help you? Yeah, the janitor who gave me the key to his apartment said the guy's a bit of an asshole. Like I said before, I don't know much about this weasel, but the bossman said he's a real piece of work. Thank
Mister, I'm not gonna bother you with a long greeting, just like we... Oh, that...
Told you.
Mr. Dubois, every worker... That's right, Mr. Dubois. I see the socialist democratic fervor now burns in your heart, too. How can I help you today? I'm very glad to hear that, Harry. One question. You didn't actually happen to stumble in and see...
He's trying to figure out if you're lying.
Just as I thought. Culturally antiquated mug collection. What a weasel. Pissing on Everart's Rainbow Coalition.
He was testing you, and you succeeded.
Now let's get down to brass tacks. It's time for men like me and you to figure out who's killed who and why. Real police work is gonna start happening now. I promise you, Harry, this is gonna be good. Racist mugs in the trash and in the apartment? You guys are just light years ahead of me. I have so much confidence in the ability of your organization. I'm relieved you're doing this and leaving me to do...
Yes, yes. Do you think this weasel is somehow connected to the murder?
Oh, no, 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 no. I don't cross paths like that. All I want is for you to succeed in your investigation. I would never complicate things for you.
Oddly, it seems to be true.
Believe me, Harry, he's a nobody. Just your basement variety nobody. Can't imagine him being connected to a high-caliber case like this. But he does live nearby. Maybe it's a pedantic weasel. Fascists are neat freaks. If you don't mind me saying so, I feel like a real detective right now, Harry. Am I getting this right? Of course, Harry. Stoic silence. I like that. Very befitting a police officer. I'm not a real detective. You are. By now, I'm sure you've figured out who the dead man was working for. The bad guys. Wild Pines. Sent to scare us. Another violent measure of the top hats against us flatcaps. Harry, this strike is the culmination of many, many mistakes made by the Wild Pines group. They tried to shut the strike down.
You mean our victim?
A security contractor? Can you imagine that? Workers standing in peaceful protest, united in the spirit of fellowship, and they send hired killers to
He performs a motion as if spraying...
I'm talking beasts. Hardened killers from proxy wars in Yesut, Semenine, Santa Maritza, You name it, they've done it. Raping, killing, burning villages, killing little children for the Senorita Pineapple Cup. Everything they did there, they brought over here. They want to turn Revachol into a third world slum. Honestly, the only thing they didn't do is kill the village elephant. Now, I haven't personally witnessed the brutalities out there. I have the luxury of staying in my container, you see. If I need to go somewhere, they just move my container. About my fun container? It's a hoot, Harry. Who knows? Maybe you'll be in here the next time they move it. It'll be very fun, I promise. But enough about me and my container. The killers the company hired, I think there were 3 of them. All hardened command. One of them got downright suicidal. Getting drunk, violent, a little rapey. Even their own negotiator couldn't control him. That's your boy. The one who likes hanging out and trees.
By negotiator, you mean Joyce?
Harry, what you need to realize is, we dock workers are not pushovers. We got grit, Harry. This whole neighborhood does. Push us hard enough and we push back. And when we do, we push to kill. Potentially, Harry, potentially. We got arm wrestling champions, rowing club people, ex-coal miners, tough guys, all ready to spring into action for their home base. There's a militant wing inside the Union, a group of people whose duties don't involve manual labor, but peacekeeping in the neighborhood, making sure everything runs smooth.
That sounds a bit like organized crime.
They're like you guys. Idealistic people who want to make sure bad things don't happen. And if they already have, well,
Again, that sounds like organized crime.
So these idealists killed our...
One day Titus Hardy, leader of this peacekeeping faction, comes up to me and says, "Boss, socialist democratic fervor drove us to take it upon ourselves to kill..." He probably worded it differently, but that was the idea. Sure sounded to me like they killed him. I gave them 2 weeks paid leave and told them to lay low to avoid retaliation.
Aren't you worried we might arrest them for this?
Oh, I'm not at all worried about that. These are not the kind of men who get arrested. They're Martinez boys, tough and gritty. I'd like to see the man who takes them in. Besides, I sent my lawyer girl to look after them.
He places a lot of faith in that lawyer girl. Perhaps this is a tactical error? Anyway.
Oh, Liz is a bright one. I paid for that law degree myself, thinking it'll probably turn her all fancy. But hell, Harry, she came back a firebrand socialist. Sometimes she scares me with her zeal.
Wait, the girl by the whirling, who was keeping an eye on you. Is he talking about her?
Oh, and she also really likes gardening, I hear. In March? Strange. Anyway, let's move on. How do I know? Let me tell you about these people. That's their... Last winter, some poor workers in Terminal E went on a little strike. The company sent in Sediment, a security contractor. The strike was over the workers' right to wear protective footwear, Harry. These guys turn up and start beating people. Tell you what, Harry, I wouldn't be surprised if we got the same mercenary company after a little rebranding. And I'm sure as hell not surprised.
So you believe the scabs were organized by the security contractor?
You said it. Hell, one of those guys looks big enough to take down that proverbial elephant. Boys like that don't just happen to show up during strikes.
That does sound quite unlikely, yes. The big guy leading the scabs at the gate is colossal.
Oh, they are simply fine young men, all 7 of them. Exemplary union members, always working to advance their position in the local... Old Theo used to run them, but things really kicked into gear when Titus took the reins and named the group after himself. Gotta love his initiative.
Interesting. Who's second in command?
They're almost all of them great guys, born leaders. Whatever happened, I'm sure they work with them. Hell, interview them. But don't fight them. They really are just like you. Men who like beer, women, and some order on the streets. You know what, Harry? I got a feeling they're gonna show up in full force tomorrow.
The lieutenant marks something in his notebook.
But of course, it's the least I can do for my good friend Harry. I'll do it right after we've concluded this talk.
When you meet this Titus, tell him about this. See what he has to say.
Also, Harry, here's 5 real. I'm not giving you anything. I'm just holding out 5 real.
The lieutenant watches you pocket the banknote. He looks a little puzzled.
Good boy. A real team player. Now, do you have any more questions? Was it a good talk? I'm not sure we made much headway here. I was hoping we'd bust the case wide open. Heck, I even wanted to tell you what I really want to achieve with the strike. I don't know what happened, Harry. I wanted you to feel like Mr. Martinez. And of course, I also wanted you to find your gun. But it's like I can't completely trust... Yes, Harry. It's like I can't fully trust you if you're not a man of the left. I want to, but I...
A man of the left. So you have to be a social democrat.
You're saying it, but I don't believe you. You know how it is. Company snitches, agent provocateurs,
And what would this entail?
Once again, I require nothing unethical or illegal of you. You just need to get 2 little signatures on this piece of paper, and then mail it to my accountant in La Delta.
It depends. I don't think what we just got from Mr. Clare was very useful.
As I said, it weighs on me heavily. But once we get really talking, well, I'm gonna hand you the keys to Martinez, and maybe even help you figure out who's behind this.
He's saying as little as possible, as vaguely as he can, deliberately omitting things.
I'm glad you asked, Harry. The Union is going to build a modern youth centre in Martinez. It will be righteous. We're gonna get those teenagers. There's a nameless little street on the coast with some old houses around it. Most people have already signed. I just need 2 more signatures to get this mission off the ground, Harry. On the coast, Harry, across the canal. There's a cul-de-sac there, a little village they're calling it. A gloomy place. You'll find it. I trust your detective skills, Harry. They are just gonna have to deal with the construction noise for 6 months, and then they'll be living like kings. Right next to a...
Is he absolutely sure the tenants won't be thrown out in the street?
Am I? Harry, these people... Martinez is the most important thing in my life. I would never let anything bad happen to them. We're gonna build a youth centre there. The value of their properties goes up, and kids have a place to play it. You bring joy to my heart, Harry. Such a pleasure to be working with you. Here. You need to get signatures from Isabel Sadie and Lillian Carter. The cul-de-sac is right past the pawn shop and across the canal. I hear there is some trouble with the water lock. Once you have the signatures, mail this to 13022 La Rocca in La Delta. Then I'll know you're a solid socialist. Yes, yes. My best men attract... What's that, Harry? You're getting a little pale. Is it the words paranoid schizophrenic and lost gun in one sentence? Don't worry, it's just a lead. It'll probably turn out to be nothing. Most certainly, Harry. Nothing brightens my... By all means, Harry, what's on your mind? My dear Harry, there are literally millions of containers in this harbour. I couldn't possibly remember... Harry, you smooth-talking son of a bitch. Time is...
Smooth talking. Maybe that's the way.
See you soon.